Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monday Mind Shift. I can shift the mind, but I can't shift the gears in the mouth. I see. Uh, I'm Sean Michael, the inner potential activator. I I've actually updated my tagline: awakening the potential in entrepreneurs and leaders, coaches, and founders. I actually just updated my about section and my tagline.
That's great. I'll be doing mine very soon, actually. It's going through an overhaul right now. So for now, I'm still a leadership communication coach, but very soon it's going to be something very different. And I must admit that it was partially inspired by you, Sean. So thank you for the inspiration. And you'll understand why I said it's inspired by you.
Okay, I can't wait to hear this. So, to begin with, I want to bring this up. Last week, something happened that actually reminded me of how complex this work is. One of the participants last week shared in a way that might have felt repetitive or disconnected, and people watching noticed. I noticed as well. But the truth is, we didn't know the full story behind the voice. By connecting with this person directly, I learned more about his journey, a story of loss and resilience and survival. And it reminded me that sometimes when people repeat themselves, it's not because they aren't listening, it's because they're protecting something underneath, some vulnerable part of themselves. And I want to call out that it doesn't mean we ignore it, because it is important of how we listen. We don't ignore the pattern, but we hold it with compassion, because the truth is transformation is not about perfection. It's about giving space to the mess, right? And to the history and to the healing that can hide behind the way we speak. So I want this space to remain what it's always meant to be, a place where we name the tension, we don't shame others, but we speak the truth wrapped in grace.
That's a lovely thought, Sean, and I'm sure everybody will echo your sentiments because that's how it should be. That's how we progress by being kind but honest.
Yes. Well, and I've always said, this is like something I've said many, many times, that I can't fix it if I don't know it's broke. In other words, if people just kind of ignore my flaws, how do I know that they're flaws? I see this all the time working with English as a second language learners that I work with. And the first time I correct them, and they're like, oh, wow, nobody's ever done that before. Thank you. Because if we don't know we're making a mistake, if we don't know we're operating incorrectly, we just keep doing it.
Yeah. Somebody has to hold up the mirror.
Yes. And that's kind of, I talked to you before we went live, Suniti, about how I updated my about section, my tagline, because my goal in this space is to, I'm not trying to teach you anything. I want to awaken the power that each of us already has. This isn't about getting better. This isn't about adding more. This is about, like, it's already there. It's just buried under all this junk. So we just got to clear the junk and we can rise. And that's a perfect segue, I think, to our topic today, which is presence before power. And the choice of this topic is because true leadership doesn't begin with commanding others. We talked about this before, Suneti, when we talked about self leadership. It's about commanding our own inner world first. Before we worry about what's going on out there, we have to command what's in here. Because we can't lead what we don't hear. If we ignore our fear, our own fear, fatigue, or frustration, we project it onto others.
Absolutely.
This leadership without listening to our inner speaker, our inner voice, our inner wisdom creates managers. But what we want is visionaries. We we don't want control, because power without presence is just control. Nobody likes to be controlled. What we want is influence. Many leadership failures are not a strategy failure. A lot of failed leaders, what we would call failed leaders, had strategies. And there wasn't a problem with the strategy. It was a lack of self awareness.
If you think about it, lack of self awareness is in fact dangerous because if we are not aware of ourselves, we are not having the clarity of who we are, what we want, what we are doing. And that makes you the biggest obstacle that you can ever face. You are your own biggest obstacle.
Right.
How
As
do you
one of the
educate
great
someone
books,
else?
there was a powerful book, which I haven't read, I'll be honest, I haven't read, called The Mountain Is You. And it's all about this, right? We are our biggest obstacle.
So we have to master ourselves before we try and master somebody else. The way you talked about control and power, you need to have power over yourself, your own emotions, your own decisions, and your own emotions before you go and try to lead somebody towards some goal or some vision. It always reminds me of something. I don't know if you have heard of it, but there's an animated movie called Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
They also came up with the second part, and it showed the emotions and it showed how they affect us. So if we think about it like that and think of the fact that we all have multiple personas inside ourselves. We are different with our family, we're different with our friends, we're different at work. All of it, if we are not having clarity about, will just be a confused mess. Especially
Right.
leaders who are having to project a particular image in front of their subordinates because they are the leader, they're looking up to you. If they are unable to do that, it's going to be a lot of chaos.
Right. Well, and as a leader, like you said, people are looking up to the leaders. And I would put the idea out that if you're breathing, in some way, you're a leader. You just don't call it that yet. We all have some form of leadership in our life. And one of the most powerful ways to influence others is by acting it, by being it, right? if
doing. Yeah,
right, if we want those who follow us to manage their emotions, well, then we need to manage our emotions. Because, as you said, and the movie is a, like, I don't think of that as a movie. Like, usually I watch a movie for entertainment. That was a master class.
absolutely, absolutely, and it's it was revolutionary. Like we never thought that emotions can have personalities, which will represent part of our personality. So the layers that they went through, and I actually heard about this fact that they had a panel of teenage girls evaluating their work. I mean, I can't think of anything more stressful than teenage girls evaluating my work, but they apparently did that because they wanted to have the essence of a teenager correctly represented in the movie because it was all about Riley and what she goes through.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one epic movie that was made, and it's seriously underrated. I often use scripts from that in my trainings and coachings because when it comes to self management, emotions are the ones which get left behind the most.
Right. Well, and the image that's in my mind as I think about that movie, it's been a while since I saw it, but as you said, when if we don't manage our emotions, because emotions are a reality. If we're human, which I think most of us are, we have emotions that we have to deal with, and we have to ask ourselves: Am I managing them, or are they managing me? But in the movie, it gave the way I remember it is that there was a control panel, and 1 minute this
The
emotion's
emotions,
running the show, and then the next one there, oh no, let me run and it's so realistic. Like, when we're operating from the right emotion, things go well, right? But when we try to do that same task from the wrong emotion, as you said, chaos.
yes, and it also showed about the islands. Remember that how everything is linked to the different aspects of our lives, like family, relationships, friends, society. So it's all interconnected. And to be able to actually have a successful, wholesome life, you need to be able to have that amount of control and awareness about yourself.
Right. Now,
And control and awareness go hand in hand. They cannot be separated.
and I would say, let me start with one of my favorite quotes. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. When we say control and manage emotions, we're not talking about denying them or ignoring them, or the worst one, right? Stuffing them, like trying to push them down. That's
That doesn't work. They just
that's very
explode.
problematic. Yeah. We have to feel them. We have to go through them to manage them. There are tools we can use to help us, which leads to my next point. Presence is not a performance. It's it's a practice, right? You can't fake it, because you think you're faking presence, but people no. People feel it. You can't pretend to be grounded. You either are,
You either are or you're not.
or you're leaking insecurity. It reminds me of a course I took in psychology, and they talked about something called the Johari window. And it was an idea that, like, think of your window in your bedroom, and you have the curtains open a certain amount to let a certain amount of what's going on be seen outside. And you think the curtains are, whoops, that much, but reality, there's that much, right? We have in our mind, how much of myself am I really showing? And what we estimate and what is real is usually not the same.
Yeah. I mean, we think that we are very smart and very um, cunning. I will use the word cunning. A lot of people think that they're very cunning, but they're not. They just end up showing their insecurities, their fears, and their vulnerable selves. And that's bad because you are not being vulnerable in the right way. Being vulnerable is not wrong, but you have to be authentic about being who you are. If you're trying to fake it, people will catch on to you, no matter how hard you try to hide it.
It's funny that you said that because just today's the 20. Just yesterday's episode was my episode was the vulnerability trap because in today's world, like vulnerability is important, authentic vulnerability, right? But it seems like it's been turned into a branding tool. Look at me, I'm so vulnerable. I shared my struggles. And it's just an act. And like you said, people aren't, as I always say, I was born on a day, but it wasn't yesterday.
That's a good one. But it reminded me of something that there's this one person on LinkedIn I used to follow and admire a lot. I mean, he has been the he's been the CXO grad for quite a few big companies in India. So I used to think that he was this really awesome person, a great leader, etc. But he often comes on live for 30 minutes and lets people connect with him. So I went and connected. And you wouldn't believe it was one of the biggest letdowns in my life because I could see the person trying to again and again come back to talking about their struggles and their problems and how they navigated them. But that was not what I wanted to talk about at all. So they came across as somebody who is very needy. And if you're a leader, you should not sound needy. Because you're a leader, you would want to help the needy people instead of sounding needy yourself.
Right. I think there's a
So,
I would say there's a context where a space where a leader can express their need, but in that context, yeah, no.
no, not when somebody is seeking your help or seeking your guidance. Because then there is a mismatch in the listening. You are not listening to what your audience is telling you.
And as the topic of today, you're not listening to yourself. Like, are you listening to yourself? What you're saying? Like, it's a twofold, right? You've got to listen to your thoughts, your speech, as well as listen to the other person. Like, really listening. And maintaining this presence, especially in leadership, it's not about charisma. We see a lot of charismatic leaders. That might have been what attracted you to this leader. This leader had a lot of charisma. They do. We're drawn to them, right? Oh, look at he's so charismatic and he's so powerful, and or she is so powerful, and I want to follow her and learn from her. And then we see the real, and we're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Uh, guess I was wrong. Because true leadership is not about charisma, it's about nervous system regulation, the ability to stay centered, especially under pressure, right?
Absolutely.
Anybody can
And
maintain it
one
when things are calm.
yes, and that's what the thing is very important because there's a person I'm mentoring right now. They are an analyst, okay? And this person, you would not believe she's so talented, such a hardworking girl, but for the last 8 years, she has not gotten a single promotion. Not even like letting her go to other teams. So I asked her why, because you have an impressive resume, you have done impressive work, and she has worked in a big company. I think I can take the name because I'm not taking her name. She works in Barclays, and she is known as one of the star employees, but no promotion. Why? Because her manager will not let her go because she does the bulk of the work of a team. Leader behavior. Her manager feels threatened by her.
Yeah, that's
I thought that was tragic
it is
because
tragic.
the company is about to lose this really dedicated worker because one person couldn't get over his insecurities, and now she's fed up. Now she wants to change the company.
And she should. You know, I, I had I had a powerful discussion with someone recently, similar to what you just shared. Like very dedicated, very hard worker, doesn't feel heard,
That's
doesn't
the
feel
classic thing. It doesn't feel heard.
right.
That's the
They just
problem.
they
Humans feel. I don't feel heard. That's how misunderstandings and disagreements and conflicts start.
yeah. And rather like your example, she's considering, it's not the greatest market to shift companies right now, but she's just like, I'm just going to do what I need to do to keep my job. She's like, I'm going to dial back, which means the company loses out. They, like you said, they have a dedicated, hardworking person who goes above and beyond to benefit the company, but because of mismatched leadership or management, it's not even leadership, right? As we said, it's management and control. This person's like, oh, I'm just going to do the minimum. And it happens again and again and again. And a common complaint from leaders is people don't listen to me. And I ask, do you listen to them?
And also, I think we can ask them that: do you listen to
Do you
yourself?
listen to yourself?
Because sometimes the message you're giving out is also very important. Like I was talking to this CEO of this company, some SaaS product they have, and they're pretty big in India as well. I asked him that, okay, how do you usually interact with your subordinates? He said, I don't. It took me a few seconds. I was like, what do you mean you don't? He said, I don't. I just let them know what the work is and they have to do it. Or I tell my partner to handle it.
I,
And he had come to me for leadership communication training so that he can go and give out TED Talks, etc. And I was thinking that, oh, honey, you need to do a lot of work before you can go over there because you don't even talk to your subordinates. How will you even develop a persona that you can project to the
yeah.
world?
And real quickly, I want to acknowledge our viewers. Welcome, Amalia and Lisa. I don't know if they're still here. I just noticed them in the chat. Um, we thank you for coming by. Anybody else who might be watching but not commenting, because if you don't comment, we don't know you're there. Because the system, like, I got to the end of one of our talks, Suniti, and it said, "Oh, great stream. You had 0 visitors." I'm like, it was the one of the times that the comments were just flying. And I'm like, "Wait, we had lots of comments. What do you mean we had 0?" Like, it's not, they're not connecting. Like, it's not viewing. It's something between Restream and LinkedIn. It's not making the connection.
That's wacky. But anybody who comments and actually engages with us, you're very, very much welcome to do so because it really gives us a lot more to think about, and like you said, it gives us more to introspect about, so we can give you better clarity and we can discuss together. It's not just me and Sean here
Exactly.
trying to give some big lecture. We are not doing that at all. It's about coming together and having a mind shift
Together.
and having that clarity. Yes, together is the most important word in whatever I said,
Yeah.
basically.
And well, and that's why when I launched Mindshift, it was back when we could still do audio events. And I loved the LinkedIn audio events because people could raise their hand and come on stage easily. And it was just a voice. I know sometimes maybe people don't want to come into Restream because it's another platform and oh, they've got their videos on. I'm not video ready. Let me just
Yeah, I'm not dressed nicely.
right. Or
Yeah,
some people just don't like to be on video, and I respect that. When we invite you to come on stage and discuss with us here, definitely don't feel you have to turn your camera on. Suniti and I do it so you can see us, our bright shining faces. As but yeah, this isn't about the video. It's I had to adapt when the platform changed the rules. Um, but I had a question I'm putting in the chat based on what it lined up with exactly what you were just saying, Suniti, about the manager, the leader, the executive even who is not listening to themselves. They expect everybody to follow them, but they're not even listening to themselves. They're just barking this stuff out. And I heard a really powerful masterclass recently. It was a talk from Lee Cockrell, who was the executive vice president of Disney World. So he was in charge of 70,000 employees. And he gave some basic tips that were so simple that most people don't even think about them. The one is you can't lead from the tower, from the boardroom, from the tower, from behind the PowerPoint. He used to go out regularly and walk the park and talk to employees. It didn't matter if they were the lead cast member or the person sweeping the street. He would ask questions and talk to them and empower them and find out what's working and what's not working. And so instead of just being, barking orders and expecting people to follow, he listened to himself. He listened to the employees, no matter what level they were at, because they had value, they had input.
absolutely. And it's very important that everybody feels heard. Like a few moments ago, you said that when somebody doesn't feel heard, that's when the problems arise. So that's very
So
important.
true.
Like, if people don't feel heard, they start feeling lonely. And as humans, we are social creatures. We want to be heard. We want attention. We want to feel wanted. As a leader, if you can make your employees feel valued, you have won their loyalty. And people are very willing to be loyal. That's the fun fact. People want to be loyal. People want to stay with you. But by not looking after their needs, you actually give them reasons to,
Look outside.
yeah,
Yeah, totally. And at the same time, you have to listen to yourself. You have to take care of your needs, right? You need some downtime, take the downtime. Listen to yourself, to your body, to your spirit, and act appropriately. And learn, like, I think a key is learning. to trust yourself. I think that's one thing where we get disconnected. Like we stop trusting ourselves because
And it
we stop
shows.
trusting
If
ourselves,
you're
we stop
thinking about
listening to
yourself,
ourselves.
it shows very badly.
And the truth is, listening to ourselves builds internal alignment. Internal alignment makes those leadership decisions simpler, faster, and stronger. Because we have the details, we have emotions in our control, we know what we're feeling, we're using all five brains, right? There's a reason why we say follow your heart. There's a reason why the old saying, trust your gut, because science has now found that neurons are not just up here. You also have neurons in your heart, in your gut, that guide your decisions of your brain. So, how do we listen better, Suniti, to ourselves?
I guess listening to ourselves is a very simple thing. And I think we are actually wired in such a way that we, by default, are supposed to listen to ourselves. But we listen to the noise of outside a lot more. I'll tell you a short excerpt basically from my life. So, when I was gaining a lot of weight because of my medical issues, I tried a lot of ways to diet and cut back on food, uh, go to join the gym, but nothing was working. And because I've got endometriosis, it became a lot of a hassle as well because the medicines and the psychological medicines and the psychiatric medicines, they all make you gain weight. So it seemed like a dead end, like I had nowhere else to go. But then somebody actually had written in one of the forums for endometriosis that just listen to your body. And at first I was like, what do you mean listen to my body? My body always wants cheese pasta. And I, I thought so. But then I tried it out. I was like, do I really want this? Do I want that? Do I not want that? And sometimes I realize that it means that having the chocolate cake is a good idea instead of waiting for 3 hours and trying to tell yourself, no, I don't want the chocolate cake, but you'll end up having actually something else, which is worse. So, listening to ourselves, listening to our body, listening to our mind, listening to us is all about taking a step back, taking a pause, and thinking, what am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling this way? 90% of the time, people don't even know why they're feeling the way they're feeling. A classic example is when people say that I am angry, but psychologists know anger is just an umbrella term. There are so many emotions like upset, embarrassment, anxiety, frustration, worry, etc. under it. So, what are you actually feeling and why are you feeling it?
Right. And actually, often what we express is anger, like you said, it's the top layer, it's the fruit,
Yeah,
right?
it's just the tip of the iceberg.
In nonviolent communication, we learned that anger is an unmet need. That's what Marshall teaches, is that there's some need that isn't being filled. So instead of trying to figure out what the anger is, oh, I'm angry because this happened or somebody did this or whatever. No, that's not what is the need. Like we have to ask ourselves, what is the need? Like When we want that cheese pasta or that chocolate cake with peanut butter icing that my wife just made me.
Lucky.
Actually, my wife is awesome in this aspect. A friend who also loves this chocolate cake with peanut butter frosting asked her to make one. And whenever someone asks my wife to make a cake, she always makes a mini cake for me. Like she'll use the mix and she'll just reserve a little bit for me. Like so I always get a sample.
That's adorable. That's really adorable, I must say.
It's just a simple question to ask ourselves and to actually pause and listen, right? Like, why do I want this cake? Why do I want that cheese pasta? Why am I not doing the thing I know I should? Right? Because you mentioned going to the gym or exercising to be more healthy or to lose weight or whatever the case is. It's why am I doing this? Like, what is the need underneath it? We could ask the same question, when that person at work says something and all of a sudden we're raging, right? And it's like, what's the underlying need? It's not what they said, it's a reminder of a need that hasn't been filled.
Absolutely. And it would change everybody's perspective if we start seeing everything as some unfulfilled need, as if we look deeper within the text and try to understand that what exactly do they mean.
Right. What do they need? What do I need? And as we said, it takes a lot of times it takes more than asking. And I totally see this with my 7-year-old. He's feeling an emotion, and so I ask him, about his emotions because I want to raise him differently than I was raised, where you know big boys don't cry and all that malarkey. Like emotions are natural and they're part of being human. And if you're feeling angry, then as we said, there's something that isn't being met. So what is it? And at 7, of course, he's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But ask an adult that. You'll probably get the same answer a lot of times because we're not practiced in listening. We haven't been taught to just listen to ourselves and to explore ourself, be present with ourself first before we try to be present for others. I know for me, one of the life changing things that actually allowed me to be so much more present for my wife, my clients, my family is carving out time for me. No cell phone, no music in my head, nothing, just quiet.
Walk,
Go for my walk,
your
go
walk.
for my walk. The first part of my walk, I used to put my headphones in because I had some jams that really got me pumped, but the last several weeks, maybe the last couple months, I leave the house, my phone's put away, my headphones are put away. It's just me and my voices in my head. So I can listen to me. What do I need? How do I be more present with myself so that I can be more present with others? That was a powerful shift. And I don't remember learning that in any class in school, or I don't remember my parents teaching me that, unfortunately.
Some things you discover by yourself,
That's,
and that makes them special.
well, and they stick around better too, don't they?
Yes.
Instead of someone barking orders
I
at
mean,
us,
think about it. Did anybody ever teach us how to use a smartphone? No. We
we
fiddled with
figured
it.
it.
We figured it out. So, and we now can figure it out better. We now deal with it better. So, sometimes when you figure something out by yourself, the lesson sticks much better.
Yeah. But at the same time, too, sometimes just sitting down with someone else, I say this on my podcast, let's figure this out together, right? I'm not,
Yeah, there's no harm in asking for help, but you got to start the process by yourself
right.
first. You have to be willing to do it
Yeah.
yourself.
And I'm learning this
Then only
balance with my
something
son, right? It's like he's 7, he can do a lot of things on his own. And sometimes he's like, can somebody get me this? And I'm like, did your legs stop working? Like, you can go get that. I understand. Ask me for help when you need help because you can't do it or you're not sure how to do it. Like he has started cooking quesadillas on his own.
Oh my God.
But he's cute because the other morning he says, "Hey, can I get some supervision?" That was what he asked for because he wanted to make his quesadilla. It was a funny and a proud moment as a father. All right. So I'm putting the link on screen because we're at the nearly at 3/4 of the way. I want to open the invitation. We'd love to hear from others. And as you evidenced, we just welcome everybody. And sometimes it's on topic and sometimes it's not.
But you're welcome all the
Yes,
same.
for sure. And I see some chat comments. Oh, those are mine.
Yeah.
Yes, the system doesn't, because unfortunately, again, I can put comments in here, which will go out to any viewers on the other channels, but not to LinkedIn. So I always keep on my mobile, I keep the room open on my mobile so that I can add comments that the LinkedIn viewers will see, because that's the main audience tends to be on LinkedIn. So tricky big.
Yeah. Next time I'll do that as well and log in from my phone because I didn't do this this time. That idea didn't come to my head. I mean, you should have told me earlier.
Yes. So as I was saying, like when I watched that masterclass with Lee Cockrell, like my brain just started pew, 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 pew. Wow, like this is simple but mind blowing because I actually did something really powerful. I got the transcript of the video and I fed it to ChatGPT with a relatively simple prompt that was where was it? Here we go. So I gave it this prompt because it gave me a huge response. Read the entirety of this file, write yourself a reverse outline, then pull out interesting and surprising themes, ideas, etc., that people might miss. For example, you can't find them online, but are definitely there. And perhaps the speaker put them there intentionally, but most people don't notice it. So the first thing ChatGPT said, okay, wait, I need some clarification. How do you want your reverse outline formatted? Um, how do you want me to share the gems? And what style of writing do you want me to give it to you in? Do you want it, storytelling? Do you want it bold? Do you want it friendly? It asked me all those questions. And I turned on the extra research. So it actually researched for 2 minutes and 47 seconds. Or maybe it's because I included the text. Yeah, I think it's because I gave it the text. So it actually like read the document. When I went back and read the outline, I'm like, wow, okay, I caught a lot out of it, but this really got stuff that I couldn't get. And that's how I like to use AI.
Yeah, I mean, AI is a very good assistant, but if you let it do your thinking for you, then you are screwed.
Right.
I mean, that's how I treat AI because it's artificial intelligence for a reason.
Right. Well, and I
Because if you give it real intelligence, we are going to end up with Terminator happening in real life.
something like that, right? Terminator, Matrix, kind of, that crazy world. Yeah, the way I like to say it is your cognitive assistant, not your cognitive replacement. I gotta put that. That's a sound bite, man.
Yeah, it is. That was a good one.
Assistant, not a cognitive replacement. Yeah, because I know there's a lot of people. I've seen a lot of posts lately. Oh, these are the markers that show that somebody didn't even think. They just copy pasted. They didn't edit. They didn't screen. They didn't put their own voice in there. It's a blatant copy paste. So many people are doing that, and we're seeing more and more of it across social.
You know what happened? Um, I can't take her name because she's a very, very famous writer.
Mm-hmm.
She's very famous. I know that very big brands work with her, but she sends out newsletters and I'm subscribed to them. And I was reading one of her newsletters. It was in her usual style and fun and everything. And suddenly, insert name here. And I was like, wait, what? She's a famous writer. She's in AI. And yes, of course, in 5 minutes came an apology mail that um, she made it sound like some assistant sent out a wrong email, etc., that was not supposed to go out, and completely retracted the offer that was there in the previous one. But sorry, honey, you got caught.
Yep. Caught red-handed.
Absolutely. And, uh, you know, I think it's very human nature that we think of these things as really juicy kind of information because, oh my god, that famous writer is using AI. It's not her own writing. And somebody actually did this and posted it on LinkedIn. So people are very aware. You can't fake anything. You'll get caught. And
Right.
you get caught and you get caught in the most embarrassing way possible.
Right. Yeah, and this ties in, right? Be present with yourself, pay attention to yourself. You know, I at the end of January, I put too much on my plate, was feeling overwhelmed, trying to keep up with stuff. I'd been publishing a podcast episode every day, and it's demanding. It's demanding. And I just stepped back. I said, I just you know what? I'm going to take a break of a few days. I'm not going to publish any episodes. I'm just going to take it easy, spend time with my family, focus on me, and re like look at what I'm doing and, you know, cut the fluff, cut things out that I don't need, unsubscribe from a few newsletters. Turn off some of the noise so I could recenter and move ahead effectively, in alignment.
Absolutely. When we were in school and we were just introduced to business studies in school, there was a line that still stayed with me that managers are people who finish a task effectively and efficiently. So that's the thing. You need to be a manager first before you be a leader. It's one of the first steps, and you need to be able to do things effectively and efficiently. So if you do not recenter yourself and if you don't know what you are all about, you're going to give out a confused picture. Like we all know this, there are certain types of people who will always patronize you and give you information and tell you, oh, I know about this, I know about that, and they have something to talk about in every topic. But when you ask them, like, what exactly are you passionate about? Start coming.
Yeah,
There is no substance
there's
there.
no, yeah, yeah, because the truth is, leadership, a lot of people see leadership as, leading a team, being in front. I get to stand at the head of the class and guide this ship. But that's not what leadership is about. It's not about being in front of people. It's about being in full command of myself. Presence with myself first is the precursor to power, real power. Because without that, it's not power, it's just performance.
Mm. And we are human beings and not performing monkeys, so we have to have presence.
Right. And not only that, but when we operate from presence, life is just nicer. Right? When we connect,
You like the life design.
we connect with people just because they're a fellow human being. How can I serve this person in front of me instead of what can I get? Right? As a leader, as a business owner, you know, service first. The rest will work itself out. Align, be present with myself, be present with others, serve others, and the rest will come out in a wash.
Absolutely.
And give people space when they need it.
But sometimes we forget to give ourselves space when we need
Uh
it.
huh.
Like you said, you realized about your walk. How long did it take you to realize that you needed some time to yourself before even you started your jams? It did, right? It took a while. It took a while to figure out that I want to be alone with my thoughts sometimes. Some people actively avoid being alone with their thoughts.
Yeah, part of it is I think we're afraid to be alone,
But
especially in this
what
modern.
are you afraid of?
Right, exactly. What are we afraid of? And, you know, in this always on instant satisfaction, right? We've got takeaway food, we've got smartphones that deliver whatever we want, right? They've got music and news and connection with the world. We've got microwave meals, things you can take out of the freezer, put it in the microwave, and in 5 minutes you got something to eat. It's not the healthiest, but it does the job. So we're in this always on world, right? Where everything's instant. We forget to disconnect. We just don't know how to operate without all the noise, without the I want it done in 5 minutes or less. And I'm guilty of it.
And it's very sad how much instant gratification has ruined our ability to have patience. Because patience is a beautiful thing. And I learned it very late because I will not say very late, but definitely much later in my life because I'm in my 20s and we are known to be impatient when we are in our teenagers. So, yeah, patience is beautiful, but this age of instant gratification, it's ugly. Frankly speaking, it's ugly.
I would agree. Yeah, because it's just there's things coming at us. Like we can get whatever we want quickly. You've got food delivery services, whatever. You can have whatever you want quickly and easily.
Yeah,
And
I'll just give a small example. You know how earlier, I guess it's much earlier for you, but when we used to watch cartoons and it would be time for the cartoon to come, and we would be like, oh no, I have to be home on time, otherwise I'll miss my episode. There was no pausing, there was no recording, there was no way to rewind and watch the same episode again. That thrill is gone because now, oh, you want to do something else? Let's pause it. We would come back home all mad rush because the cartoon is about to start.
right, and that bleeds into every aspect of our life, right? I grew up, like you said, in a world where the early years of my life there were no recordings. Like we had a joke. We had three channels on TV, and if the president spoke, forget about all your shows that night. Because whatever you were waiting to watch wasn't going to come on because the president would be broadcast across all three channels. And that was just the way it was. But, then we waited with anticipation. Okay, well, next week or tomorrow, I get to see the episode I was waiting for. It just got shifted. We learned to wait. There was no recording, there was no TiVo, there was no streaming TV on demand. Um,
But it tasted so much sweeter when we finally got it.
right, but also when you made an appointment with someone, they made the effort to be there on time. I see today so many times in many different areas, and I've done it too. Instead of showing up 5 minutes early for this, so we can have a little chat before we go live, sometimes I let everything get in the way and I don't do it. So it happens to all of us. We kind of
All
we've gotten so used to it. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll just get there when I get there.
And that's something you have to reflect on because is that who you really are? Or do you want to be something better? Somebody, some
Right.
version of you that's better.
And it all loops back to like, are we listening to ourselves? Are we paying attention to what's going on inside here? Are we giving our self space to do that? I have one final story. I was actually, how many times have we it happened to me. I was in a networking group and
Mm-hmm.
somebody said, "Oh, let's connect." And I thought it was just networking. We were going to get to know each other, talk, and they pitched me. Now, initially, most people would say like, "Oh, they've got a lot of nerve pitching me." I went back and I'm like, "Okay, what message was I sending that this person decided that that was a good time to pitch me?" Right? I owned it. Where was I at that I opened the door that this was okay? Because I wasn't listening to myself.
That's that's powerful, when the realization comes.
It's part realization and it's part daily reminder. I have my wall of reminders here. I have all these little cards that remind me things like my strengths, things to words to not use. One of my favorite ones, I shared this last week, no frapping.
What's that?
FRAP.
I know about FRAPPE, and that's a type of coffee.
Frap, yeah. Well, this is no fixing, no rescuing, no advising,
Ah,
no projecting.
the golden rules when it comes to coaching.
Yes. But it's
And there is
also a
a bit
power.
over time, but you still didn't get joined by anybody. I'm a little sad because of that.
Yes, unfortunately. And it's mostly my fault.
Why? Why would you say that?
Well, this week I remembered to publish the event, not the day before. last last week I Sunday afternoon I went, "Oh, I need to publish the Monday mind shift." But at least I remembered to send invites out. This one I got it published on Thursday, I think, but I didn't send the
Ah,
invites out
next
because
time
I
tag
even
me. I'll send out my invites as well.
yes,
Because we can send out 1,000 invites per day.
per week.
No, day.
I had heard per week. Anyway, I hated sending invites when I first started this because I was having to scroll through all my connections to send invites, and I tried it on my computer, I tried it on my phone, and it's buggy and it's slow. But then somebody told me a hack: turn a filter on, like
Yes.
location or company,
Oh,
and then there's a check all button.
I use that one only. But
that
yeah,
that yeah,
now
that's it.
there are AI apps as well, which will do all the selecting and stuff for you. But best not give them too much control over your own account.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything connected to my LinkedIn account.
That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Because
Yeah,
everything
because
collects data, and I will not get into that spiral of dangerous data. But yeah, everything collects data, and you need to keep it safe.
yes, the platforms collect enough data from us. All
Indeed.
right. Thank you, Suniti. I'm so glad to have you back to share this space with me and your wisdom.
Glad to help and glad that I am finally able to join you again. because I missed 2 weeks and I was down about it as well. Because this is one of the highlights of my week where I get to start off the week with such an energetic discussion about such intriguing topics. So, yeah, that was my loss. But now I'm back.
Yes, I feel the same way. You know, it's having these discussions, not like showing up and sharing information. Yeah, that's nice, but to actually have somebody to have a discussion with, that lights me up. That, like you said, it sets the the rhythm for the whole week.
Alright, then I guess we should be wrapping up by now and letting people
All right.
have
Thank you,
their.
everybody, for watching. Everybody who joined earlier on the live might be catching the replay. I'd love to hear from you. Put something in the comments. What landed for you in the discussion today? How do you practice being present with yourself, listening to your own voice, whether, in those quiet times or what we're speaking to others? Like, are we really listening to ourselves? Are we present with ourselves first of all, so that we can be present with others? Because that's where real power comes. And when I say power, I don't mean control and lording over people. I mean like real power.
Absolutely. So, see you everybody next week.
See you next week. I'll try to remember the invites. No. See?
I'll remind you. I'll remind you.
I'll work on that. No, but I tell people every time somebody says I'll try, I remind myself, I remind others. Try is an open door for an excuse. And that's
You
even
will.
that's even more prominent in my mind, since later today I am giving a coaching class
And knock out.
on knockout excuses. So no excuses, don't open the door, remove the friction, and I will get those invites out. I will get it posted so we can have a better turnout and have more voices join. Thank you, everyone.